Hello, and welcome to Weston 101, a pre-production look into our 2018 season at the Weston Playhouse. I'm Piper Goodeve, Director of Education and Artistic Associate. Today we'll be talking about the Pulitzer Prize-winning play Our Town by Thornton Wilder. Wilder was born in Madison, Wisconsin in 1897, educated at Yale and Princeton, and wrote much of Our Town at the McDowell Colony in Peterborough, New Hampshire, not too far away from Weston, Vermont. The play premiered in January of 1938 at the McCarter in Princeton, New Jersey, before moving to Broadway in February of that year. Our Town explores the life of residents in the fictional town of Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, and is broken into 3 acts: daily life, love and marriage, and death and eternity. At the time of writing, Wilder expressed being unsatisfied with the current state of theater. He said, "I felt that something had gone wrong. I began to feel that the theater was not only inadequate, it was evasive." In response to this, he wrote Our Town using meta-theatrical devices. For example, the setting of the play is the theater in which the play is being performed. The character of the stage manager, played in our Weston production by Christopher Lloyd, addresses the audience directly. The set is mostly bare, and the actors mime most of the props. Wilder believed that our true lives are lived in the imagination and the memory, and he wanted audiences to use their own imagination and memories to flesh out the world of the play, to bring to the watching of it their own experiences. Though this meta-theatricality is more popular now, at the time of writing, it was way ahead of its time. I had the pleasure of sitting down with producing artistic director Steve Stettler to talk about Our Town and the synchronicity of producing this play this season. We're here to talk today about Our Town, which is going to be the first show on our main stage in our 2018 season.
It is.
And some people watching might know, but we should just reiterate that this will be your final season at the Weston Playhouse as producing artistic director. And I'm just wondering why you thought it was important, or why you wanted to choose Our Town as part of your final season.
Well, I'll actually credit Tim Ford, because Tim's the one who came up with this show, and then I grabbed it. We had thoughts about summer 2018 before we decided that maybe that should be our final season. Mm-hmm. And then we needed to rethink it, because each of us wanted to have at least a project that meant a lot to us, and we also, frankly, wanted to have a lot of room for the members of the family who've kind of grown up with us for 30 years. Mm-hmm. To be a part of things as much as possible. And Tim came up with the idea of Our Town, partly because Our Town and West Side Story, which are both a part of this season, were a part of Tim's and my first season at Weston back in the late 1800s, and haven't been done at Weston since then, 1973 actually. But and frankly, we've always talked about Weston as Brigadoon, but Weston is also Our Town. And I mean, you kind of grew up in the literal Our Town. But there's so much history related to Weston that the play becomes even more meaningful to us with doing Our Town now. Yeah. It was written at the McDowell Colony in Peterborough, New Hampshire, in the summer of 1937, which was the first summer of the professional company at the Weston Playhouse. So literally, an hour-ish away, that play was being written as this company was being founded. And it subsequently won the Pulitzer Prize and is obviously one of the most produced and loved plays of all time. Who hasn't at least read it in high school, if not been in it or seen it, And the fact that we haven't done it in 45 years at Weston, we thought, what a great way to kind of finish. Yeah. So I credit Tim with the idea, but we've all, kind of owned it now. And I'm lucky to be the one to try to bring it to life. The other thing that's special about it is that we really wanted Chris Lloyd to be a part of our final season because he's been so important to us and to Weston. And having lost our dear Sam Lloyd Sr., who was really kind of the father of the company. Sam had played the stage manager in our town when we did it originally back in 1973. I was a college intern basically and played Sam Craig, the funeral guest, and an assistant stage manager. But Sam Lloyd's performance in that is still so memorable to me. And when I was talking to Chris and saying, we're going to make this our final season and we really hope you can come back. And I said, one of the things we're thinking about is doing our town. And, Sam played the stage manager the last time. Would you be interested? And his face just lit up. Oh. And it means so much to him, both to be a part of our season and to recreate a role that his beloved older brother did at Weston before. So there are just so many things about the project, aside from the fact that it's just a great play. And again, part of what is so special to us about Weston, and when we speak Weston, we're not speaking the town, we're not speaking the theater, we're honestly kind of speaking the, magical mystery that is Weston and the full experience. Our town really captures the special joy of being a part of a community and of simple pleasures that are deeper than you realize if you just take a moment to appreciate them. And while there have been a lot of changes in the world, and a lot of changes in Weston and Vermont and the theater, over the 45 years we've been able to be here, I think thankfully we haven't lost that, either in the theater or in the community. And that's part of why we can make a kind of magic here that I've seen few other places. So to be able to celebrate that on stage and with our community at the beginning of our final season here just feels perfect. One other thing I would just say about the piece, part of what I love about it, is that Wyler was really being a visionary when he wrote it. This idea of a stage devoid of scenery, just a few pieces of furniture, people playing sometimes multiple roles, mixture of people who seemed like they were in the audience but suddenly they're in the play, acknowledging that you're in a play, talking directly to the audience, going in and out of reality and time. It's quite extraordinary what he was writing at that time. And honestly, this play, I think, could have, if everybody hadn't studied it and loved it, if we did this now, I think it would feel like a very new, fresh play today, even though it's set in early 20th century. And I love the inherent theatricality of it. And by that, I mean something pure, not something glossy. It is good storytelling that depends on people with a heart and the ability to speak and a connection to an audience, and very little more. And that to me is the essence of theater. It's what I most enjoy when I do theater, and therefore, I'm excited to do the piece again. We're also talking about, in this very early stage, the possibility that the ensemble of actors not only sometimes play multiple roles and sometimes are in the audience and sometimes on the stage, but that they might make all of the sounds and all of the music that accompanies the show, as well as kind of creating the simple set from the few pieces of furniture and that are around. And of course it's largely mimed without props, and I have a wonderful movement person who's worked with us before, Wendy Seib, who's agreed to come in and work on that. So it's going to be a pleasure, I think. Personally, I feel that we're living in an increasingly mechanized and disconnected and technological age, and that human contact is often now mechanical. We will sit well, I won't because I'm no good at it, but one will sit next to someone else on their phone and sometimes even text each other. It's something
have a conversation while
while we're
here.
Which I don't understand.
Me neither.
And part of the charm when I first came to Weston was meeting people like Ray Alston and the Walkers of this farm, who had grown up in this little town, and they made their own fun, and that's why we have a theater here. Let's face it, they literally couldn't get out of here in the winter. And the play captures that, I think. And simplicity is a positive term, I think, not a negative term here, for what this play's about and what still some moments of life in Vermont can be, increasingly self-service is coming in, and I suppose we couldn't avoid that. But there is a simplicity and a purity to the life we can still live here and to the work we can do here as makers of theater that this play epitomizes and celebrates. And that's particularly meaningful to me at this time in our theater and at this time in our world.